All right, making a quick video here just over the answer keys that I'm going to post on Google Classroom tonight. You can check your own assignments. I checked them just mainly for completion. I'll check the test to see if you picked up the major things. But on this worksheet here over how do we change the Constitution, main thing you want to know is this information down here. There's been two ways that we can propose amendment. Well, let me backtrack here. To make an amendment for the Constitution, it's a great example of federalism. We have to have the national government do part of it. We have to have the state governments do part of it. The national government proposes the amendment, which means they bring up the idea, should we even have it? Congress has always been the ones that have handled this. We need a 2/3 of the House and a 2/3 of the Senate vote to propose the amendment. If both houses of Congress propose the amendment with a 2/3 vote, which if you remember, passing a bill into law was just a majority vote, so this is harder. We want to make changing the Constitution more difficult than passing a law. So you get a 2/3 vote in both houses of Congress. Now the amendment is sent to the states. And in the states, with question number 2 there, in the states you have to get 3/4 of the states to pass the amendment. That means you need 38 of the 50 states. The reason we do that is we want to make sure it's not just the big states or the little states or the southern states or the northern states. We want it to be a large group of different kinds of states, different kinds of people that approve of this amendment. So we have 3/4 of the states approve the amendment. That's something you're going to have to know for the test. We have every amendment that we have passed has been proposed by Congress. 26 of our 27 amendments have been approved by the states voting. There's been one other method that's been used, and that's this over here. One amendment, the 21st Amendment, was passed in a state convention, but still there you need 3/4 of the states to approve it in a state convention. If you know that there, the rest of this page you can look for some minor questions, but that's the main info right there. The next answer key that's posted is this one right here over the quiz that we had, and I'll just let you know, take a look at that. It's over the Bill of Rights. It just gives you some basics on the different amendments that are in the Bill of Rights. You're going to want to take a look at that and just make sure you know the basics, the major things about each of the amendments. The next answer key is over this worksheet here, and here's the answer key right here. You'll see it when I post the answer key. Mainly with this, you just need to make sure you understand the major parts of each amendment. Most of these amendments, the first 10, we probably know. First Amendment, I would think most of us know the major parts of that. Second Amendment, we know. The Third and Fourth Amendment both, the Second and Third Amendment both deal with the military, making sure we have guns to protect us from a military overthrow. The Third Amendment, making sure we don't let soldiers into our homes to snoop around. That was part of, remember back to the Boston Tea Party, Boston Massacre, all of that. The 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Amendments all deal with your rights as the accused. 4th Amendment, you don't have to allow the government to search your home without a warrant. The 5th Amendment has 5 freedoms that you're going to want to check out and make sure you know. Mainly, you have the right to a grand jury. That means you have the right for the government to make sure they have enough evidence to even bring you to trial. You have the right to protection from self-incrimination. You can plead the 5th. You can see right there. That means you have the right to remain silent. You have protection from due process, which means they have to be treated fairly in court. You also have protection from double jeopardy, which means that the government cannot charge you for the same crime twice. If you're found innocent for a crime, you can't be brought back again if new evidence is found. This means that the government has to do a good job of finding all the evidence before they bring you to court. And the final info there for Fifth Amendment is eminent domain. That just means the government, if they want your land, they can take it, but they have to pay you a fair price. The rest of the amendments there, I think you can read and kind of understand what they're talking about. 9th Amendment's a little tricky. What that one means is our founding fathers were smart guys, but they still would have forgotten stuff. They knew they would forget some things, so they wanted to make sure those rights weren't taken away from you. So the 9th Amendment simply says any right that's not protected in the Bill of Rights, you are still protected. Today, this is mainly used for privacy. And then the 10th Amendment is what gives us the reserved powers that we've talked about before. When we get to the rest of that answer key, you can take a look at these ones here. They just give you the details on amendments 11 through 27, but I'm going to talk about those here in a little bit on the chart assignment that you have. All right, on this chart assignment that you had, I'll just I don't know how the best to do this. On this chart assignment that you had, mainly what it is the first 10 amendments go into one category called the Bill of Rights. There are first 10 amendments. But the other 17 amendments can fall into 4 categories. And on the answer key, you'll see that I put the number of the amendments that go under each category. I'm just going to talk about a little bit of each of these categories and the amendments that fall in there. So this first category here, amendments that define the powers of government, these are just any amendment that said the government could do something or couldn't do something, and it doesn't fall into the other categories. This is kind of a catch-all. I'm going to come back to this one here in just a little bit. The next one here is amendments that affect the tenure or election of the president, the executive branch. So any amendment that deals with how long the president's in office or choosing the president goes here. 12th Amendment set up it made some changes to the Electoral College, and it made it so that our president would always be able to choose his vice president in the election. It wouldn't end up where the loser of the Electoral College became the president's vice president. So that's what the 12th Amendment did. 20th Amendment was the lame duck amendment. What it did is it moved the day that the president takes office up from March 4th to January 20th. This set the day that the president takes office as January 20th. The 22nd Amendment we've done before. It's 2 terms in office. The 22nd Amendment gives the president 2 terms. That was in retaliation. I guess that's maybe a strong word, but it was in response to Franklin Roosevelt's 4 elected terms in office. And then the 25th Amendment we've also had before. That deals with presidential succession. If the president's dead and gone or found guilty of impeachment, or if the president simply quits, we have an order of succession to take over, and the president can also choose his or her vice president. The next column here is amendments reflecting social change. These are just any amendment where one day we felt one way about the topic and the next day we had to feel a different way. The 13th Amendment is it outlawed slavery. In our country, one day slavery was allowed, and the next day slavery was banned because of this amendment. So it changed the way our country felt about slavery. The 18th Amendment said that alcohol was illegal. This started prohibition. One day alcohol was allowed to be drank. The next day it was illegal. Changed our social values. And a few years later, we decided we wanted to bring alcohol back. So with the 21st Amendment, it changed the way we saw alcohol. Alcohol was illegal one day. The next day it was legal once again. So that's the 21st Amendment. Now over here, the longest column, all 6 boxes are filled. It's amendments that expand our voting rights. Many of our amendments since we wrote the Constitution have been to give more people the right to vote. We said back at the start of the semester, popular sovereignty was what our country is built on, the idea that more people should have more power. These amendments create popular sovereignty. 15th Amendment gave African Americans the right to vote after the Civil War. 17th Amendment said that citizens could not only vote for president and representatives, but also for senators. This was trying to get rid of corruption in state government. Who used to vote for the senators, now we could vote for our senators. The 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. 23rd Amendment we've had before. It gave Washington, D.C. the right to vote for president. 24th Amendment outlawed the poll tax, which was something some states used to keep black Americans from voting. So the 24th Amendment strengthened the 15th Amendment. And the 26th Amendment lowered the voting age to 18. So it gave 18 to 20-year-olds the right to vote. Going back to the first column, the 4 amendments that really don't fit into anything with the president's election, changing social values, or giving more people the right to vote is amendment number 11. 11 simply says that if you live in one state, you cannot sue another state for something you don't like there. If I don't like the way that Kansas treats a certain group of people, that's none of my business. I don't have the right to sue them in a civil court and say that I think they've denied me my rights. I don't live there. I don't have rights there. So it just made sure that citizens of one state couldn't sue a state they're not a resident in. 14th Amendment granted citizenship to African Americans after the Civil War. What the 14th Amendment did is it defined citizenship. It set up jus soli and jus sanguinis, which we've had before. 14th Amendment's also very important in that at the end of it, because they knew some states would not want to give black Americans their citizenship, it said that all of the amendments in the Constitution applied not only to the national government but to the states. And this amendment is used quite often to make sure that all states are following all of these amendments. 16th Amendment said that we could have an income tax. Back when we studied the natural rights, we said that you have rights to life, liberty, and property, and the Supreme Court would oftentimes rule in favor of the citizen over the government. Many times our Supreme Court ruled that income taxes were unconstitutional because they were taking away your property. Our government needs that money, and so we passed the 16th Amendment that said the national government could constitutionally tax you of your income. And the final amendment here is the 27th Amendment. It's our most recent amendment. It is one of the original amendments written by James Madison. And in this amendment, it simply says that if Congress wants to give themselves a pay raise, it doesn't take effect until the next election. That way, if we don't agree with that pay raise, we can vote out those Congress members who gave themselves a pay raise. There's the 17 amendments that have been passed since the Bill of Rights, and that's kind of the categories that they fall into. The final answer key here is just some scenarios, trying to use events that might or might not happen, and you had to pick the amendment that would either allow that or not allow that to happen. I'm not going to go over any of these specifically. I think when you look at them here, you can figure out how they were meant to work. There was a little writing assignment down here over a video. That was something we've done in the past. I hope that didn't cause you any grief trying to figure out what it meant. But those are all the worksheets we had this week. I will post all of these on our Google Classroom site, and you can go and look at them and make sure your answers are correct. There'll be a few small assignments this week, and I will post a test, and that'll kind of finish up this week. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks.